Hi, my name is Stefan Henry. I'll be your speaker for this video session. Forgive me, it's still a little weird for me to talk to myself for like 20 minutes, so I'm gonna periodically check on this phone over here and try to make this as least awkward and most succinct for you as possible. Um, like I said, my name is Stefan Henry. I'm 31 years old, 32 now, 32 years old. I'm a mechanical engineer for the MTA. I actually work on their operations and maintenance manuals for their elevator and escalator system. So I try to help get more elevators into the system. And I'm also the CEO of a engineering firm called Over the Curve Incorporated, where we make adaptive products for people to help them live their everyday life as succinctly and as humanly as possible. Um, so you might be asking, what got me into engineering? Um, I got into engineering at a very young age. Well, I didn't even know it was engineering. I got drawn into it through cartoons and animes. Ironically, my favorite was Iron Man, and I always thought it was really cool that he could literally just use his brain to create these things that can help him like slay villains and fight and help people and things of that nature. Plus the theme song was really really cool too. And I actually became a big fan of Queen not too long after that. But it's one of the things that kind of got my brain going into like, oh man, like if we could just build things to actually help out the community, then why can't I build things? You know, especially in a world where like everyone else was super powered. It was nice to see someone who was just smart and doing things that he could do to help out everyone else in general. Um, and I was kind of always just like the kid who would just tinker with things at home, or kind of wanted to tinker with things at home. My favorite toys were always Transformers because I could mix and match them to do different things. And if I ever got Legos, I was like trying to build castles and stuff like that. So it was just something that was kind of in me and kind of developed slowly over time. Um, and that in general was basically like the building blocks for me wanting to get into mechanical engineering in general. But it got catapulted by something else that happened in my life. So um, I'm not just a regular mechanical engineer. I am a mechanical engineer with a physical disability. I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic, incomplete. Um, if you haven't experienced or really understand what that means, it's really someone who's had a spinal cord injury at a high level. So if you think of someone like Christopher Reeves, um, I'm pretty I'm pretty high up there in the sense of I'm in a wheelchair. I can't use my fingers. I can barely flex my wrists. Um, but everything else is pretty hard to do. Clearly can't walk. Don't have any motor function below the chest. Um, and in general, motor function just about anywhere below my chest is I just can't do anything with it. Um, so how I ended up this way was I was on a highway with my aunt. It was Easter Sunday. I was in the passenger seat because I was a pretty big kid. I was already like 5'7", 5'8". Um, she was driving. I had a drink in my hand. The drink was falling because I was falling asleep. She tried to catch it. She lost control of the car. The airbag popped. It snapped my neck back, and it damaged my spinal cord at the C5, C6 level, leaving me incomplete. And probably, well, I definitely wasn't getting any physical function back afterwards. Um, that was pretty devastating because beforehand I was a track star, or was becoming a track star. I was only 14 years old at the time, so it 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 very much changed the pathway of my life, um, in both bad and good ways. Uh, I'm saying all this because my experience in rehab kind of catapulted me to further wanting to be an engineer. And I say that because although everyone in my rehab was very kind, I had good nurses. Um, I had family who was around 24/7, more or less. And all these things were very instrumental for me getting my independence back. I there were no In therapy there are two different types of therapists, right? There are physical therapists, there's occupational therapists. I mean, there's obviously a third therapist too, which is the mental health therapist. But in terms of who I was dealing with and who I really went out of my way to deal with at that time, it was mostly the physical therapist and the occupational therapist. Both have great uses. The physical therapist, as you can probably sense from the name, um, basically helps you with everything physical, right? Like trying to get your strength back in your muscles, trying to get you to do strengthening activities on a regular basis, um, and try to just kind of get like your neural pathways working again. Um, Occupational therapist, very useful, tries to help you figure out how to do things in everyday life again. So things like put on your clothes, your shirt, your shoes, your pants, bathe on your own, you know, traverse the world on your own in whatever sense that is. They do their best to help you there. And I found that despite some brilliant OTs that I've had in my life who've actually like molded me amazing tools that could potentially help me write or help me eat or anything like that. If I tried to get devices to help me do the same thing, at least at that time, 17 years ago, they were incredibly expensive. Um, I, at that time, eating tools were like 60, $70, which for a 14-year-old and a family that just recently had someone become disabled in there and weren't well off already, it was expensive to get any of these things for me. Um, Insurance will cover a certain amount of things, but insurance has its own issues in terms of what they'll choose to cover and how much they'll be willing to allocate, and a lot of other crazy things that you have to deal with them. So that being said, the world of adaptive devices to me was almost instantly shut off, right? Like I didn't have eating utensils that I can really use. I didn't have reachers that were affordable to me. I didn't have like cooking tools to help me in the kitchen. I didn't have even cathing tools to help me pee by myself, really. So, and even the cathing tools that were given were basically just generic tools that didn't necessarily work for my hand, so I never really used them because of that. So a lot of the devices out there already were inaccessible to me, either because of price, because of inability to use. And to be honest, like even if you had a lot of tools out there, they normally required for you to have someone else also be there to help you. And I don't know if you know anything about 14-year-old boys, but they're not too big of fans of having like someone else out there to like help them pee, right? Like at that point, you're trying to use that part for something else, right? But that's not. It was a hard situation to come through, and it was made especially hard because uh, I'm not someone. Well, a lot of guys don't really like having their independence stripped away from them, and to see that there's very little options to get them back, to get it back, that are in your reach, is even more like depressing and sets you off in a weird way. Um, I come from very resilient people, and I have a brother and sister who I love to death. So I couldn't just, I didn't feel like I could quit um, trying to be independent, even though there's a lot of times where I very much wanted to quit trying to be independent and just quit at life, really. Um, I knew I couldn't do that. So I pushed through, right? Like I went to different rehab centers. I did everything I could. I got a trapeze over my bed. I was doing like 100 pull-ups a day at some point. Um, I was teaching myself to transfer, falling all the time. I had some great therapists who were teaching me to transfer. Shout out to Lawrence Harding and shout out to Emmanuel and Jenny Lieberman. Jenny Lieberman's amazing. But I really pushed through, and because of that, I've gained the ability to not only move, eat, dress on my own, but I actually live on my own right now. This entire place behind me is a fully accessible apartment. Nice windows. You can always come visit me. I live in Harlem. um, I have home health aides come in during the day and all these sort of things, but it was a journey. It was a real journey. And looking back, I always think, damn man, what if there were some tools? Like literally almost in that moment, I was like, what if I just had tools to help me with this? Like, what if I had tools that were A, affordable, B, I can actually use them and I can use them on my own and I want to use them. They don't look like some hospital wheelchair that I need some home health aide to like push me behind and tilt me and take me everywhere. Like I can actually be independent and go to restaurants and do things that I need to do. And it would be great if I lived in a world where that was actually possible. Um, so I started looking into the assisted devices in general, just trying to get a lay of the landscape in general. And there are some cool things out there. I found some cooking utensils actually that I've been using all throughout this pandemic to like make chicken and rice and garlic knots and all this kind of stuff. Um, Google, it's been amazing. Uh, I no longer have to try to reach really high to like turn on and turn off my lights. So I'll show you. Okay, Google, turn off the lights. Turn on the lights. And I've learned some nifty tricks. I've got my little sliding board in the corner that helps me get in and out of bed. Essentially, because you can't walk, you have to put a board underneath your body that you can slide on, and it'll place you prone or supine. It'll help you place yourself prone or supine on the bed. Most of the things in my house are Bluetooth to the best of my abilities. So lights are Bluetooth, TV is Bluetooth. I've actually got a little bearded dragon fellow behind me. his entire cage over here, or he's like hiding right now. He's camera shy, but his entire cage is like lit and timed and all these sorts of things, so that I never have to really touch anything. Um, so for the most part, whatever adaptive tools are around, I do my best to use them, but it's still lacking. Um, these are tools that happen to be adaptive. There are still a lot of tools that are somewhat adaptive, like they're usable, but they're not really custom for a person. They're not something that you want to use, and sometimes they're just outright expensive to get. So I actually made a company with a few friends of mine. We're called Level the Curve Incorporated. We basically make adaptive tools for people with disabilities, like I said before, to help make life easier and help make life more livable in general. We started this, myself, Eli, and Konskib were the original co-founders, with our amazing co-founder, Sophia Salazar, to join afterwards. When I was in high school, I used to have someone go around and help me write, because with quadriplegic fingers, you can't really hold a pen or pencil very well. I'd also have to have someone go around and help me eat, because with the tools that were out there already, they were either falling apart on me instantly. I didn't have access to a lot of the better tools, or they just weren't something that I was really proud to use, to be honest with you. So we founded a company that is, while we are learning how to be a great engineering firm in this adaptive space, we're trying to take in the tenets of like adaptive design in general. So we look into the user's needs. In this particular case, we made an eating tool that basically you can put just about any fork or spoon in, right? And the user would have something that they can hold steadily, won't just fall out. I probably should have prepared food for this demo, but can easily like manipulate whatever it wants without having to worry about it shaking too much and falling out of their hands, or not being able to grasp the fork properly. So this is one of our starter tools. This is something made out of PLA. PLA that we coat eventually so that it's fully food safe. PLA is already deemed food safe. As you can see, it's a 3D printed piece that will probably eventually go into stainless steel, and it's highly flexible so that you can just as easily push it out, pull it in, I could push it back out. So high elasticity, not easy to break, very easy to use. We're still working out some kinks. We're trying to make it so it's a little bit more customizable. Right now it comes in a few different colors, blue, red, gray, yellow, green. But we're gonna work on literally making it so that, you know, if you wanted to make this to Patriot, like the American flag, you could do that. But we're also making products for the restaurant industry, so that like you can have a stainless steel one that is easy to use. It's pretty elegant, and you don't feel like you're kind of an outcast in a space full of people who are trying to have a fine dining experience. So yeah, if you want to learn more about us, we're at levelthecurve.com, and I'm slowly running out of time, but Thank you for the time, and I appreciate you guys. Hope this lecture was useful to you.